got this engine for our LT swap. Come out of 2023 SS Camaro. It's a 6.2 liter LT1 with a 10-speed transmission. They say LT swap is the new LS swap. They got more power, they got more torque, and you get better gas mileage. But they still pretty pricey if you don't know everything you need to know. But today, YouTube, I want to share with you my cheap LT swap parts list. And we're going to make sure we cover everything you need for your LT swap. Well, we ain't going to say cheap. We just going to say the most inexpensive as you possibly can, as easy as you possibly can, without sacrificing quality or performance. Let's get it. What it do, YouTube. Today, YouTube, I want to cover every part that you need to get your LT swap in your car and up and running. And we're going to also include the costs associated with the parts. We're going to include the minimum and the estimated maximum cost that it's going to cost you for those parts. And the reason that I made this video is because just like anything that you get yourself into, before you get started on a project, you need to have a ballpark range or a ballpark figure of what you're going to spend. So it's very important that you need to know this information before you actually start your LT swap. If this is your first time on the channel, this is Chevys R Us, and our goal is to help you do your LT swap or your LS swap as easy as you possibly can, as inexpensively as you possibly can, without sacrificing quality or performance, y'all. We ain't holding no information back. We ain't hiding nothing. I don't care if you somebody that ain't got no experience at all. I want you to know that you in the right place and you got the whole entire Chevys R Us community for help and assistance, y'all. In this particular series of videos, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know to make sure that you can properly adapt these LT engines into these older cars or into any kind of car so that you can properly do a LT swap as easy as you possibly can, as inexpensively as you possibly can. And we're going to be covering step by step. So if you're not locked and loaded, hey, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell. That way you see the new videos when we post them. And also, look, drop me a comment in the comments and let me know you ride with Chevys R Us. Let me know what kind of project your heart desires or what kind of project that you currently working on already. So make sure y'all pay attention. Make sure you watch the whole video so you don't miss nothing, y'all. First thing that you're going to need when you do your LT swap is you're going to need some engine mounts, y'all. And what they call them is LT swap engine mounts. Just like the LS swap, I highly recommend that you get the slider mounts. The slider LT swap mounts. That way you can adjust your engine forward or you can adjust it backwards and get the placement perfect on your LT swap. And you're going to pay anywhere from $40 all the way up to maybe $200 for your LT swap mount. So at a minimum, you might spend $40 or at a maximum, you might spend maybe $200 for your LT swap engine mounts. And those are absolute must, man. You got to have your LT swap engine mounts to adapt that engine and let it mount up and bolt up to your frame. More and more companies are starting to make these LT swap engine mounts. Right now, it's a handful of them. You could just Google it out on the internet, and you'll find multiple companies out there that make them. All right, that's the first thing. The next thing that you're gonna need is you're gonna need a smog pump delete kit. We actually talked about that in our last video. So if you don't know what that is, I highly advise you, after you watch this video right here, to come back and click on this link in the top right corner and check that video out. We actually talk about the smog pump delete kit and two other things that are absolutely necessary that'll make your LT swap as easy as it possibly can, y'all. So it's important that you check that video out. Just like the G.I. Joes, knowing is half of the battle, y'all. I said the Transformers in the last video, but I meant the G.I. Joes. So you got to know that information, y'all. So make sure y'all come back and check that video out. The smog pump delete kit, that's only gonna run you maybe 20, 30 bucks, you know, at the most. It's just 2 screws that screw right into your block. Some kits, they come with like a plate to replace the smog pump on your block. Some kits, they just come with the screws to block the holes off. That's it. All right? So you're looking at about $40 for that. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a LT swap cross member. But cross your fingers right there, because you may or may not need a LT swap cross member. And the reason I say that is because you may be able to reuse your original cross member by modifying it slightly, by re-drilling the hole that your transmission mount bolts up to, or even re-drilling the holes on your frame where the transmission cross member mount to your frame. So you may or may not need it. But just in case if you do need it, I've seen these things online anywhere from $100 all the way up into $500, y'all. And it just depends on the quality. It depends on the specific application, y'all. Because they got these high-priced cross members, and sometimes you don't even need a cross member. You can make your original cross member work. So keep that in mind. And just to give y'all a quick heads up, a little bit later on in the video, we're going to do a summary, and we're going to look at the total cost from a minimum standpoint and the total cost from a maximum standpoint. And I'm going to tell you how to find a downloadable copy of this LT swap parts list for your use. So y'all stay locked in with me. The next thing that you're going to need is a pair of LT swap headers. And I seen these headers online anywhere from $200 all the way up into $1,200, y'all, for LT swap headers. And it just all depends if you're getting shorty headers, you're getting mid-length headers, you're getting special material headers, you're getting polished headers, you get direct bolt header. It all depends on your specific application. Just remember that. Anywhere from $200 all the way up into $1,200. And those are necessary, y'all. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a LT swap wiring harness and a LT swap controller. Now, the two of them, they usually come as a combination or as a kit, and you can get those together. And the key thing is this particular kit, it can cost you anywhere from $2,000 up to maybe $3,500, y'all. And the key thing is the cheaper swap kits or the cheaper controller kits, the ones that are cheaper, they already programmed to control a factory setup of an LT engine. And so the key thing is, if you run it all stock, you can get away with one of these factory program LT engine controllers and the harness that comes along with it. Now, if you're going custom, that cost is going to increase You may pay anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 for your wiring harness and your computer and everything else that you need to control that LT engine. All right. And if you decide not to go with the adaptable kit that can cost you about $3,500, you're going to have to pay somebody to program the factory LT engine controller. So you still going to end up coming out the pocket maybe $3,000 or so, y'all. I'm just saying, man, you know, if I can help save you some money, I'm going to help save you some money, man. You got to look at it. These stock LT1 engines, you already coming with 455 horsepower, you know, but if you decide you want a cam and all of that, you're going to pay more. So y'all keep that in mind. The next thing that you may or may not need is what's called a DOD delete kit. And you only need a DOD delete kit if you decide you want to go with an aftermarket cam, you want to go with a custom cam, and you know, you want to try to increase the power of your engine even more. That's the only time you're going to need to go with a DOD delete kit, y'all. And a DOD delete kit, it can run you anywhere from $500 up to $2,500. And what it is cam, lifters, and all of that stuff, man, that comes non-DOD or AFM style cam and lifter kit. That's what it is. So you may or may not need that. I actually got a video coming out on the explanation of that a little bit later on. So y'all stay tuned for that video right there. All right. So keep that in mind. Next thing you're going to need, y'all, is you're going to need a power steering pump. You're going to need a LS-based style power steering pump. And you're going to pay anywhere from $80 all the way to $250 for a good quality power steering pump. Remember that. And you also going to need an accessory drive bracket relocation kit. A LT swap accessory drive bracket relocation kit. And what this will do is it allow you to move your AC compressor, move your alternator, move it around so that things don't hit the frame rail. And it'll also allow you to mount your power steering pump, your LS-based power steering pump, to your LT engine. And that kit is going to cost you anywhere from $300 all the way up until $3,000, y'all. You can spend $300 and you can get the brackets and reuse your factory style accessories, or you can order a whole serpentine setup. It's going to cost you about $3,000 or so. It's going to come with the brackets, and it's going to come with your power steering pump, your alternator, your AC compressor. It's going to come with your pulleys and everything you need. So you do the math. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a good fuel pump, y'all. And the fuel pump requirements for these LT-based engines, they'll be higher than the LS-based engine. Trust me. And you're going to spend anywhere from maybe $250 to $350 for a good fuel pump that produces the right amount of pressure, PSI, for your new LT swap fuel system. And I think these LT swap fuel systems, they require anywhere from 70 to 72 PSI coming right out the tank. They operate at a much higher level than that, but that's what's required from the fuel pump out the tank. It actually has a secondary fuel pump that is installed underneath the intake that runs off the cam that boosts pressure up to like between 2,000 and 3,000 PSI. But you don't need to worry about that because that's going to come with your engine. All right, remember that. Fuel pump, anywhere from $200 to $350 for a good fuel pump, y'all. All right, the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a fuel line kit. Yeah, you're going to need fuel lines. And you can get a AN6 fuel line kit and the connectors and everything that you need to plumb your fuel system for about maybe between $80 and $150, y'all. You might be able to give it a little cheaper than $80, but you definitely need a good quality set of braided AN6 fuel lines to plumb the fuel system for your LT swap. So remember that, y'all. Now that we finished walking over the LT swap parts list, I want to summarize what we talked about and put everything out there in front of us so we can see what our totals are actually looking like. All right, let's take a look at that right now. As you can see, the total price to do an LT swap for parts at the low end is about $3,470. The total price to do an LT swap for parts on the high end is about $11,690. I'm going to include the link to this LT swap parts list in the description. That way you can download it, you can add to it, take away from it, and just use it for your review. If you're new to the channel and you like learning this kind of information, eventually be doing the LT swap in this 72 convertible Impala that already has a LS3 in it. We're going to pull it out and put our LT1 transplant in it out of our 2023 SS Camaro. So y'all stay tuned for that. And just remember, y'all, your project is just as important as my project. Before y'all go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn on your notification bell. And also, man, we chop it up every single Wednesday for Go Live Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about things that, like I just covered in this video. If you got an issue or if you got a problem or you need to know something about an LS swap or LT swap, you don't just got me. You got the whole Chevys R Us family for support, man. So join us for LS swap or LT swap questions and answers. And also, if you got an old school car, if you're working on a project car, you're more than welcome, man, to show that thing off on Go Live Wednesdays, man. So y'all make sure y'all join us. YouTube.